Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Atilla Ergi. For those who don't know me, I'm a lecturer in Islamic spirituality, and I have Dr. Omer Atilla Ergi with me, a lecturer in Islamic theology and a physicist. Welcome.
Thank you, Isla.
It's good to have you here. Now, a question about destiny. It's a topic that you can look at it from so many different angles, but can we change our destiny, qadar? And I ask this especially in the context of a hadith which says, or a number of hadith, one about how dua can change your destiny, qadar, and how sadaqah, for example, can make your life longer or protect you from calamities. Can we change our destiny?
Yes. Well, destiny, as you know, it's right up my alley because my PhD is on destiny.
Yes.
I did a lot of research into this. I looked at, historical documents, and not just in Islam, from the Greek philosophers all the way to Western, philosophy, theology, and Islam. And I did a detailed research on this. And from an Islamic perspective, destiny and free will goes hand in hand. Usually what they say is, Islamic Muslim scholars, they say that one should look at the past as destiny, future as free will. So this is very interesting.
Yes.
But of course, this is from a human perspective.
Can we just, before you move on, because I understand what you mean by that, but maybe our audience may not. What do you mean by looking at the past as destiny and the future as free will?
Yes, it's a good point here. Yeah. Because we cannot change the past. It's a reality. It has happened. We cannot travel back in time. Physically, it's impossible.
So don't say could have, would have, should have. It's happened.
Yes,
it's in the past.
Yes, people use that a lot. If I did this, this would have happened. No, that wouldn't have happened because it already happened. You can never go back and change history or your past. And this is philosophically proven as well, scientifically proven as well, because there is a thing called grandfather paradox.
Right.
If you go back in time, that's why time travel to the past is not possible. If you go back in time and killed your grandfather, you shouldn't exist. And how did you go back in the first place and kill him? So there is a paradox there. But future, because it hasn't happened for us as human beings, it is full of possibilities.
Yes.
So we have the free will. We can pick our path. We can choose our path. That is why we say future which should be looked at as free will. That is the reason. However, when we come to the issue, the concept from Allah's perspective, from God's perspective, past, present, future are the same. There is no such a thing as future for Allah.
Because he's beyond time? Is that?
He's beyond time.
Yeah, that's right.
He's beyond space and time. So for Allah, future has happened already. Or they are occurring simultaneously at the same time. He can see all of them at the same time. And that is why when people try to explain qadar in Islam, they struggle. Scholars as well. Scholars struggle as well. You know that some scholars, when they explain qadar, they say it is the knowledge of Allah. It is, which is because qadar is a type of knowledge. But here's the thing. Allah is all-knowing. But here's the thing. When you use the term, Allah knows the future. That's why he has written it in your qadar. This is the general explanation. You put Allah within time as well.
True.
He knows the future, but for him it hasn't happened yet, and he will wait for the future. It is not acceptable.
It suggests that he's bound by time.
He's bound by time.
I guess we struggle because we are bound time. We can't imagine Allah not being bound by time, but we just have to hypothetically
try to understand it from our own perspective.
Yeah.
And when we say future, we are referring to future according to us.
Yes.
But there is an explanation for this. People will understand it much better. There was a guy called Hermann Minkowski.
Yeah.
He's a mathematician, physicist, German. He came up with a model of the universe. You know how the universe is expanding continuously.
Yeah.
He said it resembles an onion.
Okay.
You know how onion has many very thin layers?
Layers, yes.
As it expands, it actually forms a slice of space-time, a universe belonging to that slice. Right. So all the slices are there. The previous slices are still there. You know, And if you go to the center of the eye, the onion, there's a little thing there in that center. You know, in Turkish we call it cücük.
Yes, the
It's
center
very
part.
famous.
Yes, yes.
That represents the Big Bang.
Right.
That's when the universe started, and as it expands, it forms all these layers, space-time layers. And according to Minkowski, he says that the outer layer is the current present time. But all the layers prior to our time, they're still there. The universe, as it was then, still exists. Why? Because
That's right.
because when we look at distant stars, like say a star about 2 million light years away, we are actually seeing the star as it was 2 million years ago. We're looking at the past. So the prior slices are there, you know, the space-time slices. We are at the surface. But I take this further. I take this argument further. I believe for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, the future slices are there as well. We are stuck or we are bound by our space-time slice.
Yes.
But the future ones are there too, and we exist in them too. If we lived, let us say, if we live till next year, we are in that slice as well. So Allah sees everything simultaneously at the same time. He creates us as well. Maybe a very good way to explain this is this. If you get a book in your hand, let us say the title of the book, Universe Space-Time. It's a book of universe. This book has been authored. It's already been written.
Yep, beginning to end.
Beginning to end. But we are a page within that book. We are in a page within that book. Let us say that page is 2025 right now. A page. For us, the previous pages have already passed.
So we've read them, yeah.
We read them, but upcoming pages, we have not arrived to them yet. But they exist. Because it's Allah who is the author of this book, the book of the universe. Because we are stuck in that page, we don't know what's going to happen in the upcoming pages, and that's why we call them future. So going back to your question, can we change destiny? From our perspective, yes, we can. Because human intention, free will, casp, acquisition actually builds the future in regards to us though.
Right.
So it shapes our qadar from our perspective. But from Allah's perspective, that has already happened.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it does.
no matter what decision we made, it's already written there. So
In the
future is not
Lawh
future.
Mahfuz, in a way, it's already written.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's hard to explain. I'm trying to think of an analogy to explain what you're saying. As you, for example, when the hadith that says dua will change your qadar, or you know, if you give sadaqah, it can protect you from calamities. That's changing your qadar as well. What's
From
going to
your
happen, destined from your perspective.
Yeah.
But I guess it's. But you're saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you're going to be doing all those because He's beyond time.
Yes, and you already done them.
And
So
I'm already,
you already did them, you know, from the... You know
I feel like
why?
we're watching Interstellar again.
You know why? Because technically in physics, again,
Yeah.
as I said, you cannot travel back in time, but you can technically travel to future.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Because if you reach certain speeds, velocities, you can actually travel to the future, and which means the future is there. It's already in existence.
SubhanAllah.
And that means that Allah already knows the choices you made. Your free will is still not negated because you're the one who's making
That's
the choice.
where we struggle, I guess, because we're like, well, if Allah knows what I'm going to do, then I'm not choosing. But that's not the case.
Yes, it is not the case.
Yeah, we're again binding Allah by time.
Yes.
Or we think our will is bound by time. Well, it is bound by time,
is.
but
we still have that ability to make the decision when you think about it. You know, they say that Allah's infinite knowledge and will, we'll say will, because nothing happens without the will of Allah.
yeah,
The Quran says you cannot will unless He wills. But they are connected.
they are connected.
In regards to human free will, the minor will is connected to the absolute will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a very simple condition there, which we intend through our free will. We intend the action. We intend the action, and he creates the action. So it works that way in Islam.
Yeah.
So does dua change the qadar? They ask another question to the noble Prophet ﷺ, if everything is written, then should we not make all these efforts? It's famous hadith. The Prophet said, do the efforts because they are written as well. They are part of qadar as well. As I explained once with the Hazrat Omar incident, when he travels to Damascus and they
Yes.
stop in somewhere and camp, and this person comes on a horse and he says, don't go there because there is a plague outbreak. And Hazrat Omar radiallahu anhu, he makes an istishara, consultation with the Sahabis, and they decide to go back to Medina. But one of the companions or Sahaba, he says that, oh Omar, shame on you. You know, are you running away from the qadar of Allah? He's pointing at Damascus. And
Where the plague is.
Where the plague is. And Omar says, you did not understand qadar, the concept of qadar. Yes, I am running away from the qadar of Allah to the qadar of Allah, pointing at Medina. Which means no matter what decision Omar made, it would have been written in the qadar anyway. Because as I said, Allah is free from space-time. It doesn't change,
Yeah.
you know?
Can I say, but that means that Omar radiallahu anh did not make the decision because it was written.
Yes.
He made that decision and that's why it was written.
That's why it was written. So it is written because we make those decisions. In fact, again, Nursi, he says that qadar is a type of knowledge. Knowledge depends on the actual. The actual does not depend on knowledge. I love this, equation that he makes. And if we were to explain it with an analogy, I always use this analogy a lot. At the moment we are in Craigieburn, or close to Craigieburn. There's Hume Highway in front of where we are now. If we jump in our cars and start driving towards Sydney on Hume Highway, up ahead there is this road sign on the left, green road sign, and it says Sydney to 824 kilometers, as I remember. Now, what is written there is knowledge, like the qadar. What's written there is knowledge, but the distance between Melbourne and Sydney is the actual. It is the obvious. Now, that knowledge depends on that distance, isn't it? Now, if I go to that sign in the middle of the night when everyone is sleeping, I get a paint and a brush, I change it to 724 Ks, would the actual change? No. So that knowledge depends on that actual.
Right.
Actual occurs and qadar records it. So Allah...
And the actual is what we choose to do again.
Yes, it's our free will.
Yes.
So qadar is not a compulsionist concept. It doesn't compel human beings to act in a certain way. So we are not like the Jabriya idea. They are compulsionist school. We have free will. We make decisions, and Allah creates our decisions. But whatever decision we make, He already knows.
So it's like
Knowledge is infinite.
It's a capturing of what we decide to do.
Yes.
I think that analogy was very powerful. The actual is this, and therefore it's captured as this a number.
Yes.
And so whatever we decide to do, our choices and so forth, and then that's captured.
Yes. So we should make dua. We should give sadaqah. We should take our precautions so something bad does not happen to us.
Yeah.
But when that bad thing doesn't happen to us, it was already known.
Because Allah knows everything. Otherwise, we would be limiting Allah's knowledge, wouldn't we? Yeah.
So technically, we should say this when people ask, can you change your qadar? If we are referring to Imam al-Mubin, which is the infinite knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no, you cannot change that. Because Allah's knowledge cannot be altered. He knows everything that has occurred, is occurring, and will occur. Everything. He knows everything. Therefore, no matter what decision we make, that doesn't change the fact He knows about it. Yeah. Another thing, sometimes people say, because He has written something, then why is it my fault? They use that a lot too. But the issue there is this as well. They are not looking at qadar and irada, destiny and free will, from a causality perspective. They are either evaluating it from the cause or just the effect. If you're only looking at it from an effect perspective, you are in the view of Jabriya. You know, if you're looking at it from just the causality perspective, you're in the view of Mutazila. They are not both Ahl Sunnat wal Jama'ah. They are not the middle path. The way you look at, evaluate Qadar is by looking at both of them, cause and the effect.
Because one is very fatalistic, and the other one is very liberalist, because it's like, I make all the decisions. I have absolute autonomy.
I'm absolutely free. That's wrong too.
That's wrong too, because it takes Allah out of the equation. And the other one is fatalistic, because it's like, it was in my Qadar. I murdered this person because it was in my Qadar. It's not my fault. It was in my fate.
Yeah. You know that somebody actually stole something at the time of Omar radiallahu anh, when he was the Khalifa. He was a thief. This guy stole something, and they brought him to Omar radiallahu anh, and he said, "Why did you do this? Why did you steal?" You know, he said, "It was in my qadar." He used the thing, and Hazrat Omer said,
"I'm sure he's not the only one who used it." Yeah.
Yeah. Hazrat Omer said, "I'm increasing your punishment. I'm doubling it." He said, one is for committing that crime, and the other one for blaming Allah for the crime you did. So you did not do that because it wasn't written in your qadar. You were going to do that. That's why it's written in your qadar. So people understand it the other way around. That is why. They are very compulsionist. As Bediüzzaman gives that analogy, he says, you know, if a man takes a gun and shoots someone else on the head or something, it is like seconds, you know. And he asks the question, if he did not pull the trigger, would the guy still have died? And you know, in my classes, when I do Usuluddin, I ask the students all the time.
You must get amazing discussions.
And they're going to learn now. The future students will have the answer now because we're doing the video. And most of the time they say, yes, he would have still died because it's in the qadar. And I say, that is the Jabriya view. It's the Jabriya view. If you said, no, that person would not die, that is the Mutazila view. The opposite. So what is the real view here?
We don't know.
No. Yeah, we don't know. That is the answer, because, look, the guy might not pull the trigger, but the person might die of heart attack.
Yeah, and that shows the complexity, I guess.
Yes, the possibilities.
The possibilities.
We don't know. Allah knows, but we don't know. So, yes, the correct answer is that we don't know, but we have to look at it from a causality perspective, both cause and effect.
Okay, so Mu'tazila is taking cause into only cause, and that's why it's like they wouldn't have died because I'm the cause, and they wouldn't have died.
Yes.
And the Jabriya is more fatalistic. It's written, no matter what I do or don't do, he would have died.
He still dies.
Whereas there's a middle ground, obviously, where it's...
That is why I said causality is important, because in the qadar of that person, it would have been written, this person will die with a bullet coming out of this person's gun. Well, if the bullet is gone, how is he going to die? So logically, Mu'tazila is more closer to the fact. But the reality is the person could have died because of something else.
Someone else shot him.
Someone else shot him. That's possible. That's why, you know, Imam Abu Hanifa in Fiqh al-Akbar has a beautiful answer to this. He says that in the destiny of Abu Jahl, for example, it is not written Abu Jahl will die as a kafir. Because if it was written like that, then that's compulsionism, and Abu Jahl on the day of judgment will say, what is my fault? Why am I going to Jahannam? You wrote I die as a kafir, that's why I died as a kafir. So Imam Abu Hanifa says, it's written, Abu Jahl, the cause is there as well. Abu Jahl, using his own free will choose to be a kafir. Therefore, he will die as a kafir.
Wow, that's
everything
very comprehensive.
Changed.
It does.
Everything changed because it was his decision.
Very powerful.
You know, not Allah's decision. He didn't make him kafir, hasha. So, like that verse, you know, Allah guides whom He wills. People understand that wrong too. They think that Allah just chooses people. I will guide him. I will not guide him.
Yeah.
That is wrong. Allah guides people who wish to be guided. So you have to show that effort. You have to have that will to be guided. Then he will guide.
This is how I visualize will. It's hard to show on camera, but it's like we've got, say, human will. It's juzi irad, it's tiny, but then you have God's will. And it's like where the two overlap is where it, but then again, things can happen if God wills it and you don't. So God's will happen if he wills.
Yes.
But where his will and your will overlap, that's
a very good example. When we look at Qadar, you know what I explained? I said there is the macro Qadar. That is natural laws that happens in the universe. That is completely out of our control because it all depends on physics. Allah has created the laws. He's the one who's governing the laws. We have no say in that. The only say we have, which is an inclination, that is our free will. We can use that free will to make big decisions, and it can be very harmful. It can be detrimental, and it can be very beneficial to us. Maybe as a wrap-up, if you like.
Yes.
We can use this example in regards to what the example you gave. I think it's a very good point. I resemble Qadar, you're going to find this interesting, to a video game.
Yes.
You know, in video games, when you play a video game, you select this avatar. You're in control of that avatar. You can make it jump, walk, lie down, but you can only make it do things allowed by the program.
Yeah.
So the universe is a program that Allah programmed. He's the one who's controlling it, and he gave us certain abilities, like the avatar. We can move left, right, think, decide to do things, but it's limited. We cannot go outside of the program.
No.
We don't want people to understand this wrong, because there are some people who think that we live in a simulation and things like that.
No. It's an analogy, yeah.
It's an analogy because eşya, matter exists.
Yeah.
It is a reality, and it's in many of the Islamic theological books.
This is not a virtual world. It's a real world.
It is not a virtual world. We live in a real world. If you say it's virtual, then you're saying Allah does not have the isim, name, Khalik. He's not a creator, then Hasha. So that is a wrong ideology. Yes.
No, very powerful analogy. And I think that inshallah, I really want us to do another video about, because, again, depending on where that avatar is, their capacities and so forth, that can influence where it ends up, what rewards it gets. And this is where I feel like, Allah will judge us based on our circumstances. I don't know if that's making sense.
No. It is a very big thing. Maybe one point.
Yes.
You made a very good point there. Why free will is so important, although it's very insignificant. As I said, it's nothing but an inclination. That's what human free will is. But it's very significant because 20 men, I'm giving an example, can build a house in 20 days, but a 15-year-old can burn it down in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how detrimental free will can be. Yeah. So it is significant.
It's significant. And with that comes accountability. Yes. Thank you for that very enlightening discussion, and see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.